Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have the penultimate team selection video of the season, Game Week 37. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, very briefly, here is how I did in Game Week 36. Remember, my bench boost was active for 36, and to be honest, the bench was actually very successful, so I'm very happy I saved the bench boost for this week. Ended up scoring 26 points on the bench boost, almost entirely carried by Ben Foster, but this is the reason you play a bench boost with a keeper that doubles, because you can have these brilliant mega hauls, as we've seen with Foster there. Got a 10-pointer and a 4-pointer for 14 points, and 26 points on a bench boost, in my opinion, is definitely a successful usage of the chip. It's just the fact that the rest of the team didn't do that amazingly, and a lot of the other highly owned players absolutely smashed it. So I obviously captained Salah, as most people did, to be honest. If you captained Son or De Bruyne, let me know down below in the comments. Absolutely fantastic job with that, and make sure to celebrate and enjoy it, because that's what FPL is all about. But I, of course, didn't own De Bruyne, didn't own Son, didn't own Nketiah. There were quite a few other players, Kane, for example, that did quite well that I didn't own. I actually sold Sterling, of course, this week. If you follow my channel for a while now, I owned Sterling for a few weeks, captained him in 35, sold him this week. He goes on to score 28 points, which is just remarkable. And then I obviously kept Havertz. Havertz only played 1 minute. So it was a series of poor decisions to go without Son, probably on the wild card. I'll admit that not even in hindsight, that was probably a poor decision. I think De Bruyne was a 50-50 one. I could have got De Bruyne, but it would have been from -8, and I wanted to get Richarlison. So I'm not too displeased with that decision in retrospect, but I think it was just a series of negative outcomes, really. And I've been stagnating at around 35, 40k for a while now. And as I spoke about last week, I'm trying to fixate less on rank. I'm trying to enjoy my season. I'm trying to enjoy the process of making these decisions. And I'm going to try and enjoy the final 2 weeks. And top 10k does look like it's out the window now. I'm about 50, 55 points away. But top 10k isn't everything. And I just want to try and finish with the best possible rank that I can. So this week, I'll be making transfers to, number one, increase my enjoyment of the game. Make sure that I'm making transfers which make me want to watch the football that I'm excited about. And number two, just to try and finish with the most points I possibly can and try and work my way up some of the mini leagues that I'm in. So that is the current plan. Ended with 111 points, which was about just under 1,000 place red arrow. So it wasn't the end of the world. Very happy with the bench boost. Let's now move on to Game Week 37. So guys, as always, I'll be showing you how the team looks without having made any transfers. I'll discuss what my transfer plans are after that, and I would love your help as well, because I want to get a little bit creative with it this week, and I don't mind taking a hit or two just to end the season with a bit of fun, like I said, and try and optimize the way I'm playing the game with respect to enjoyment as much as overall rank. So the team is currently set up in a 4-4-2 formation. Some of the players that are currently in the starting 11 might not be in the starting 11 once I make transfers, but I will discuss all of that as we work our way through. And I've actually got a few double game week players, and the single game week players actually look pretty good as well. There are a few major omissions from my team, Kof, Heung-min Son. Outside of that, though, I am pretty happy with the team, and I'm slightly optimistic that we could get close to matching a few of the free hits that I've seen floating about. So starting in goal, I do have Schmeichel. Very happy with that. Again, I'm not expecting too much from the second fixture against Chelsea, but the Watford fixture, hopefully we could see something there. Watford have a ton of injuries. They're basically down and relegated now. So you would expect and hope that there's a decent chance for a clean sheet there. And regardless, if he can make 5, 6, 7, 8 saves across the double, if he can get 9 saves, it'd be an extra 3 points just in and of itself. So hopefully Schmeichel can come away with this with 6 points plus, and I'd be fairly happy with that. I've then got 3 single game defenders, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo and Alonso. With respect to Trent and Alonso, of course, it will massively depend on what happens in the FA Cup final tomorrow. I'm really glad that we get to see the FA Cup final before the deadline, because it does mean that if we get any injuries, we can react to that. And also, if, for example, Alonso plays 120 minutes and looks absolutely knackered, then it might be that I just say, you know what, I'm definitely not going to start him. Probably wouldn't transfer him out because of Game Week 38, but it would give me a bit of an idea, because I also own obviously 2 more Chelsea players as well. It will give me an idea. I'm not going to make my transfers before that, because I might be able to see, look, Havertz only played 10 minutes. Lukaku looks absolutely knackered. Maybe he's going to start. So I'm really glad that we do get the FA Cup final. So if you can, if you're not going to be priced out of your moves, try and hold off if possible and wait for the FA Cup final, because it could be anything could happen. Could get injuries, could get rotation, could get different pieces of information which might help us. So that's the situation with Trent and Alonso. With respect to Alonso, again, if I make a couple of other transfers, there's a decent chance that Alonso doesn't start anyway for me. And then the only the double game week defender, I should say, that I have in my team is Matty Cash. But in my opinion, he is arguably one of the best double game week players for this upcoming game week. If you watch the FPL Wire, I was just listening to that. Late Riser said that he's actually thinking about potentially captaining Matty Cash. And if you're looking for a differential differential captaincy, he really likes him there. I'm not sure I would go that far, but I do think he's a fantastic option. And we saw earlier on in the season, he scored, I think it was 29 points in a double game week. So Cash has that in his locker. I think one clean sheet is definitely viable in this double. Maybe not 2 clean sheets, because as I said in the game week preview video, Crystal Palace and Burnley are actually both in the top 6 for expected goals per 90 over the recent weeks. So they're actually 2 teams that are attacking fairly well. But I would expect or hope for 1 clean sheet. You've always got the opportunity for an attacking return there as well. So if Cash can come away with 10 plus points, again, I'm really, really happy with that. And looking at the goalkeeper and the 4 defenders, I'm pretty happy with this in general. If I were on a free hit, the only real differences I would make is probably just getting 1 extra double game week defender in there and then maybe looking at Pickford over Schmeichel. But to be honest, I'm very happy with the defence. Let's move on to the midfield. So moving on to the midfield 4 as things stand, this could become a 3 or a 5 depending on what transfers I do end up making. Starting with Salah, again, depending on what happens in the FA Cup final, I genuinely am considering captaining Salah. Actually, at the time of recording this, I've actually switched my armband to Salah just after making this graphic. I might switch it back to another double game week player. I just think that there's a lot of goals in that game, and I just think that it will massively depend on what the Manchester City versus West Ham result is, because Manchester City play before Liverpool, and it will massively depend on how many minutes Salah plays for in the FA Cup. Do Liverpool win or lose? There are lots of different things that might change my opinion. I just fancy Liverpool against a shaky Southampton team with everything to play for Liverpool have. I think there could be quite a few goals there. And I just think that, if you look at Salah's underlying data, it suggests that he's been very unlucky not to score more goals and more FPL points in recent weeks. So I do really like him as a captaincy shout. And whilst I understand that people are looking to sell Salah to Son, and I'm not necessarily sure I would say that's a terrible decision, for me, it's just not an option. I would be looking at, if I wanted to get Son in, and I may well do so, it would have to be for someone else, in my personal opinion. We've then got 2 other single game week players. The first is Saka. In retrospect, again, in hindsight, but I am still happy with my decision at the time, it probably wasn't the best transfer last week. I took out Sterling for Saka. Saka just doesn't really look the same since Nketiah's come in. I'm not saying he's been playing poorly. I just think he's less of like a central figure for Arsenal, and they're less reliant on him because Nketiah occupies a lot of those spaces in and around the edge of the box. He obviously gets on the ball quite a fair bit as well, makes some really, really clever runs. I'm not sure that Saka has quite worked out how to play effectively alongside him as he did with Lacazette. So I wouldn't mind benching Saka if I need to. I wouldn't mind, I guess, selling him. It feels a bit silly after bringing him in for these final sort of 3 or 4 game weeks to sell him. But again, I don't mind doing so if I want to bring someone else into that midfield role. And then equally, I wouldn't mind starting him. He's one of those players where if he's in my team, you hope for something. If you had to take him out or bench him, I don't think you'd be too worried based on his recent form. And then I've got Mount, and Mount's actually someone that I'm really glad I did keep. I kept him more so for game week 38 than for 36 or 37, but he performed very, very well in the second fixture of 37. Of course, he's just had a rest in 36. He's just had a rest in the first game of game week 36. Once again, it does massively depend on the FA Cup final. But if Mount only plays 90 minutes or less, it doesn't go to extra time, and he looks good once again, I would probably expect him to start the final 2 games. And even if he doesn't start against Leicester, which still would be a bit of a kick in the teeth, I would expect him to start game week 38, which is against Watford at home. And for me, that looks like arguably the best fixture of game week 38, and I could even captain Mason Mount. So I'm very, very unlikely to be selling Mason Mount, and I'm pretty happy to be having him in my team at the time I've recorded him. And then I've got Gordon as the 4th midfielder. Again, Gordon is a bit of a budget enabler, but still, in recent weeks, his data's been okay. He didn't look particularly good in 36, but to be honest, Everton didn't look particularly good in 36. But we did discuss this before the deadline. Everton are much better at home. And yes, they're not easy fixtures against Brentford and Palace, but they're decent fixtures. And we spoke about the fact that we weren't maybe expecting too much from Everton away from home. They've just been so much better at home. So maybe this does suit Gordon slightly better, this double, and hopefully we could see something from him. Again, you're not expecting too much from a 4.6, 4.7 million pound midfielder. If you can get 2 assists or a goal and some bonus, I would absolutely be taking that, and hopefully he can outscore a few of the single game week players. Of course, the major omissions in my midfield, there's maybe like 3 or 4, to be honest. There's no Son, no Kulusevski. I've got no Spurs covering this midfield, but Son in particular is the major omission. Zaha as well, I would absolutely love to try and get into my team. Again, his data hasn't been fantastic recently, but he's just a really nice kind of high ceiling double game week pick. I also then don't have any Manchester City midfielders. Again, I sold Sterling, don't have De Bruyne, don't have Foden. And then I don't have a double up on the Liverpool attack. I think Diaz, Jota, Mane could be fantastic options. So there are a few omissions in my midfield. With respect to who I could potentially be looking to bring in, it could potentially be Son, as we'll discuss in a sec. Son could make his way into my team. Kulusevski could, if I fancy him to start the last 2 game weeks. And then probably most likely, just because it's got obviously the double game week this week, there is a chance that Zaha makes his way into my team as well. So there are a few options that I'm considering in midfield. I am fairly happy with my midfield four. If I were on a free hit, I would probably only own Salah and maybe Gordon, but it's one of those things. You can't have the perfect team every week. Let's now move on to the two strikers and also look at the bench. So, starting with Ollie Watkins, the reason this video is coming out later than usual, it's obviously not good for me as a YouTube channel and trying to get as many views as possible, but I like to give you the most up-to-date information, so I waited for the press conferences. This is the full quote on Ollie Watkins, and be careful because I myself did this. A lot of Twitter accounts and journalists just summarise the press conferences, but I've got the word-for-word quote from Gerrard. He said, Ollie hasn't trained since the Liverpool game, but there's still a chance to be involved. Hoping he can take part in tomorrow's session. Ankle knock, I don't think it's too serious. Told by the doc that he'll try and train tomorrow, so all being well, he'll be available. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that I think that's amazing news. To be honest, I think there's a very good chance he starts on the bench against Crystal Palace and then maybe starts the game against Burnley. But that's significantly better than it first looked, because a lot of people were saying it looks like he might be involved, and that is essentially what he said here. But don't think it's too serious. Told by the doctor that he's fine to try and train, so all being well, he'll be available. I think if we see training pictures with Ollie Watkins in on Saturday, because that's what he's talking about here, the Saturday training session, and we don't get any news before the deadline that he's out, if he's travelled with the squad, I think I would end up keeping him. Now, if you're on a free hit, completely different story, 100% in my opinion. If you're on the free hit, and maybe I would be doing this anyway, I'd be going for Danny Ings. But if you already own Watkins, I'm not sure it's worth taking him out either for free or for a hit. Definitely not worth it for a hit in my opinion, especially as we've spoken about the fact that Crystal Palace is so good defensively that realistically with this double, you're probably looking at that Burnley fixture to target. So I don't mind that. I'm probably, as a result, unless we get any update on Saturday, but again, tune into the Sunday live stream to find that out, I'll probably be keeping Watkins, but we will keep an eye on it. Hopefully that news has helped you. It's not really cleared up our decision making, but hopefully it's helped you a little bit anyway. The second striker that I've got starting and the 11th player in my team starting is Richarlison. Like I said, in this graphic, he's currently got the armband. I've been switching between him and Salah, and I was desperate that we'd get really good news on Watkins because, to be honest, I would rather captain Watkins than Richarlison on reflection. I just don't think that Everton at the moment, seeing how they performed against Watford, again, that was away from home, but they don't look like a team that are going to score a ton of goals at the moment. They look like the sort of team that will score 1, 2. If I had to guess, I'd say 2 or 3 goals for them in this double. And of course, Richarlison could score all 3. But equally, we've seen it before, 3 goals for a team and Richarlison might not be involved at all. So I think having Gordon and Richarlison as a double up in attack's probably enough as it is. To then captain Richarlison maybe isn't for me. And again, Crystal Palace are that great defensively. I know Villa also play Palace, but they just seem to me, and the data would suggest they're a team that can score more goals. So I was hoping that Watkins would be deemed as fully fit in training, absolutely fine. But of course, that was unlikely. So at the moment in my team, it's between Salah and Richarlison for captaincy. However, I do have, as you might have seen on the thumbnail, a potential secret weapon that I am looking to potentially bring in. And if I bring him in and we get news before the deadline that he is indeed starting, I would be captaining him. We'll discuss that in 2 seconds. Looking at the bench, we've got Foster on the bench. I shouldn't need him anyway. I've got Schmeichel in the team, and I expect him to play at least one of those 2. Havertz on the bench at the moment. Again, massively depends on the FA Cup final. If Havertz plays 70 minutes, looks absolutely outstanding and scores a hat-trick, maybe I expect him to play in Gameweek 37, but I don't really know what situation I'd feel fully comfortable starting him in. I just think Lukaku looks fantastic at the moment, and whether he starts and looks good and comes off, or whether he comes off the bench, I think there's a good chance that Lukaku plays 37 anyway. So I will probably end up selling Havertz or just put him on the bench anyway. So just don't feel fully comfortable starting him. And then the other 2 substitutions are starting with Pukki. I'm probably looking to sell Pukki this week, either for Ings or Vardy, which we're going to discuss in 2 seconds. And then the final one is Laporte. Just to give you this quote as well, I've got the full quote. I'll flash both of these on the screen, by the way, as well. This is from Sam Lee. Apparently, Guardiola says, Laporte is in treatment. We will see tomorrow. I think they will try. Until the day of the game, we won't know who is available. Not very helpful, particularly. What I would expect is if he is fine, he'll play just due to the amount of injuries they have. But if not, it sounds like he should be good to go for Game Week 38. And as a result, just because he's playing against Villa, which is an okay fixture, and just due to the fact that a lot of my other players don't have fantastic fixtures in 38, unless I get some other news that Laporte is out for the season, that it looks like a serious injury, because that's what the rumours were suggesting. If we don't get any further news, I'll probably keep him on my bench and just hope that he's fit for 38. And then if he isn't, I have a little bit of a cash cow. I could do, for example, Laporte down to Sessegnon or something like that for 38, and that would give me some money to play with. So that's the way the team currently looks. Like I said, the players that I'm looking to potentially sell, it was going to be Watkins if he was out. It was going to be Laporte if he was confirmed out. But the fact that both Watkins and Laporte are only doubts now and they could be involved, I'm probably looking at the 2 players that I want to sell are Havertz and Pukki. Now, I could do this various ways, right? I can take -8s to take those two out and someone else to get in some players that I want, or I could just take one of them out. For example, I could just do Havertz to Zaha. Nice and simple. Start Zaha over Alonso. Straightforward. I could easily just do Pookie to someone in attack and then again play them ahead of Alonso. Could be someone like a Welbeck or a Tony if I want a single game week player. Could be if I fancy maybe Danny Ings in there, I would have to make another transfer to fund that. The player that I really desperately want, I just think he's a really, really good option if he starts against Watford, is Jamie Vardy. Now, if you follow FPL community over on Twitter, there's a guy called Sam Martin. He's been consistent for about 4 or 5 seasons now. He's an In The Know ITK account where he basically gets information sometimes like 48 to 24 hours before the deadline about what the team's going to be for the upcoming game. And he's 100% accurate every single time. He said there's a decent or reasonable chance that he might be able to find out if Vardy's going to start against Watford. If Vardy's confirmed by Sam Martin to start against Watford, I think there's a very good chance that I bring Vardy in and I give him the armband. Yes, I think there's a good chance that he doesn't start against Chelsea, but you'd expect him to get some minutes. If he can get 70 to 90 minutes against Watford and then 20 to 30 minutes against Chelsea, I think that's a fantastic chance for a haul. And we saw what he can. He's a real stat padder. He absolutely bullies these weak teams, as we saw with Norwich in game week 36. And I just think that's a really fun punt. And when I don't really fancy the captaincy on many other players, I quite like it. And the final reason I am really considering Vardy is because, again, my team doesn't look fantastic for 38, but I just think the final home game of the season for Leicester, they're playing against Southampton at home in 38. Again, Southampton don't look fantastic at the moment. I'm assuming by that stage they will be safe from relegation, although we'll have to wait and see. It just looks like a really good fixture for Vardy once again, especially if he doesn't play both in 37. So I'm looking at potentially Vardy in for Pookie. The issue is if I do Vardy in for Pookie, I would have to do Havertz all the way down to a £4.7 million midfielder or cheaper. Now, I have 2 options there. I can go for someone like a Douglas Luiz, or I could go for someone like a Brownhill, just a cheap player that I chuck on the bench. Or, apparently, according to Gerrard, Jacob Ramsey is now fit, and there's a good chance that he plays both games in the double. So I could potentially just do Havertz to Ramsey, and I could start Ramsey ahead of Saka, and that would give me another double game week player. So I've got a few options there if I want to get Vardy into my team, right? So that's the first one. And then, like I said, the other option is I just go for maybe like Ings in Pookie's position, or I maybe just go for Zaha where Havertz is, or I just bite the bullet and say, Ross, you've gone long enough without Son. Get Son into your team for Havertz and work out a way to downgrade to be able to fund that move. So those are the potential moves. Let me know down below if this was your team. Try not to take what I've said into account too much. Give me your honest opinion. If this was your team, what would you be doing with it? 1 free transfer, trying to have some fun with FPL again, not minding taking up to a -4, maybe a -8 if I already need to, and just trying to attack these final 2 weeks. Let's now move over to FPL.team and have a little bit of a live tinker and look at some possible transfer combinations that we could make for game week 37. So guys, before we jump into looking at my team over on FPL.team, I just thought I'd give a massive shout out to Fantasypedia. We are continuing this partnership, and I think you guys have really been enjoying every single week in the team selection videos, me showing you the chances conceded mega thread that Fantasypedia create. So if you are new to this channel and you don't know who Fantasypedia are, they're basically a Twitter account that create really elite top tier content, and I know they've got so much planned for next season as well. All they want you to do is just go over to their Twitter account, drop them a follow, drop them a like and retweet on their content, and just drop them a comment to let them know that you are enjoying it. So as I said, just go over to this thread. The second link in the description will take you to this thread. The first link in the description will just take you to their Twitter account. So drop them a follow, like, retweet, and just let them know that FPL Raptor sent you, and just say thank you for showing me this thread, FPL Raptor, just to let them know that I sent you over there. So we're just going to go through and look at where each of the teams in 37 are conceding most of their chances from, and where that possibly means that we should be picking players. We won't go through every single matchup because you can go over to their tweet and check that out for yourself, but we'll just look at a couple here which might potentially be interesting. So this is starting with the Tottenham and Liverpool game. So as you can see, Tottenham are playing against Burnley, and Burnley concede most of their chances down their left flank, which is basically exactly where Kulusevski and Emerson Royale will be functioning. So again, as we've said for a while now, you can look at this 2 ways. You can look at this as this is where Burnley are conceding a lot of space and a lot of chances from. Therefore, I want to pick players that play on against that part of Burnley's team. So again, Kulusevski or Emerson Royale. Or you can flip that and you can say, well, if Kulusevski and Emerson Royale are getting a lot of space down the right-hand side and Burnley are conceding a lot of chances down that side, maybe it means that they'll whip the balls to the back post to the likes of Son and maybe Sessegnon. So there's 2 different ways you can look at it. I'll leave that up to you, but it looks like Burnley are conceding quite a lot of space and a few chances down their right-hand side. And then we've also got the Liverpool game. And as you can see here, this is why I'm quite keen on maybe captaining Mo Salah. Southampton are just conceding a plethora of chances across their entire front line. So across the left, centre and the right, pretty equal amounts in every single third of the pitch. So you can pretty much here go for any of the Liverpool attackers, I think, and you'd be pretty happy with it. They're going to create and maybe get a few key chances. If we just scroll down a little bit further, you can see here we've got the Arsenal-Newcastle game here. I think pretty much Newcastle conceded a lot of chances down the sides of the pitch. So again, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka might be really nice options here. This isn't to say that Nketiah won't be. Of course, if they're conceding space, it might be that they then go out to the likes of Saka and Martinelli, creating space for Nketiah. But this might suggest that, again, Saka might be worth playing, and maybe this is the game week where he starts to rekindle some kind of form against Newcastle. And then Manchester City versus West Ham. West Ham conceding a lot of chances down their right flank, which is exactly where the likes of Foden, maybe Sterling, whoever plays on that left-hand side will operate. And it does, again, look like a game where, again, West Ham have conceded quite a few chances recently. Maybe the likes of Kevin De Bruyne will be a fantastic option, although we've seen that recently he's actually been going out to the right a little bit more and occupying more of that central spot. We'll just look at one more. I'm just going to pick the Aston Villa one again. Like you can see, every single game week, every single game they go through and look at all of the chances conceded. I'm going to just put this here just to show you that Matty Cash and Luca Dean could be fantastic options. Again, if you think Luca Dean's going to play both, because there's the slight risk that Ashley Young starts one. But as you can see, against Crystal Palace, they're conceding most of their chances down their right-hand side, which perfectly suits Luca Dean. Against Burnley, they're conceding most of their chances down their left-hand side, which perfectly suits Matty Cash. So this would suggest, if you're on a free hit, maybe go for both of them. And it does drive home the point that if you're looking for a real differential captaincy, maybe it is Matty Cash. So like I said, first two links in the description will take you over to Fancypedia's Twitter account. Go follow them. Go like this tweet. Go retweet it. Let them know that FPL Raptor sent you. And thank you once again to Fancypedia for sponsoring this video. Right, guys, here we go. Let's have a bit of a live tinker and have a look at what on earth we're going to do with this team for Game Week 37. Like I said, do let me know down below what you would do. And if you like any of these different transfers I'm going to talk about at any stage, let me know down below what your favourite is. If you want to do some live tinkering alongside me, get me up on one screen and do your tinkering on the other screen, then you can do that by going to fpl.team. This is the website I'm currently using here. So ignore captaincy and vice. I haven't fully decided on that stuff yet. But like I said, at the moment, I really fancy a punt on Vardy. I probably would want confirmation that he starts. We'll have to wait and see if we get something like that on Saturday or Sunday. Let's say I go for Vardy, just to give you a bit of an idea about how on earth I would end up getting my team sorted for that. It would be Vardy would then come in probably into Alonso's position like that. And then, like I said, I can just do this with just two transfers. It would be a -4. Havertz, if I just scroll down for you guys, you can see I've got 4.7. The issue that I've got is it looks like Havertz might potentially be going down in price tonight. If he does, then I'll actually only have 4.6. If he doesn't, and I can still afford this, then I just think Ramsey makes the most sense in this spot. But I'm going to go on the assumption that by the time I make the move, which should probably be on Sunday, because I'll try and wait for as much information as possible, I think Havertz probably have gone down. So let's say we just go for like a Douglas Luiz, or let's even say Brownhill, just because he's got a slightly better fixture in 38, just in case I need him, right? I would probably play Alonso as my first substitute anyway. So this is the way the team would look for a -4. I think that's absolutely fine. Like I said, I'd probably end up giving Vardy the armband if I brought him in. And I'm pretty happy having 3 double game week strikers, Gordon in there, Cash in there, Schmeichel. The single game week players would be Trent, Cancelo, Salah, Mount and Saka. I could even, if I really didn't fancy Saka, which I don't particularly at the moment anyway, I could even play Alonso in there if I wanted to. If I make those moves, you'll just see this is one of the main reasons I really do want Vardy into my team. I just think he's a really nice option against Southampton. I probably wouldn't give him the armband, but I like to have him in there as an option. Let me just show you what the team would currently look like then. If Laporte is back, that's a massive boost for my team, because what that allows me to do is something like this. And then what I'm left with is realistically needing to make probably at least one transfer, maybe one more -4. At this stage, it would probably be something along the lines of, again, I know I don't have Son in my team, but if I commit to the Vardy move, I'm probably going to struggle to get Son. It would be something like Tony into that spot there. And then for Gordon, I'd really want Kulusevski, but I can't quite afford that, can I? So unless it was something like Nketiah, Kulusevski, let's just say for now, the moves would be something like that for 38. Again, like I said, if I commit to the Vardy move, because I'm taking money out of that Havertz spot, it makes it very, very difficult for me to then get to Son, unless I sell probably Saka, but then it's going to be probably a -8 and 38. The other option I've got at this stage is I guess I can just do Salah to Son. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that would be another option as well if I didn't want to make the Kulusevski move or on top of the Kulusevski move. I do have that easy, straightforward route of going Salah to Son. It would be something I'd have to weigh up at that point. The fixture obviously looks better for Son. Son looks more in form. He looks like he's finishing his opportunities, but I quite like having Salah in game week 38 anyway. So that's sort of the first set of moves, right? Second set of moves more so involves going for Ings instead of Vardy just because it's so much cheaper. But of course, that gives me slight issues in game week 38. So I'll just very briefly show you what that might look like then. Is bringing in Ings for Pookie. Similar situation where Alonso then drops to the bench. And then in Havertz's spot, I need to find 0.6 million. So what I can do at this stage then, or if I just cross him out there, is I actually have enough for Zaha here. So what that would look like is something more like this, which to be honest, for 37, it's probably stronger, right? Because I get Zaha and Ings, and Ings, in my opinion, is arguably one of the best options for 37. And I get another doubler in Zaha. My major issue with doing that is if we just switch to game week 38 now, it's a bit of a nightmare, my team, right? I've got double Villa attack against City. I've got Richarlison and Gordon against Arsenal. Zaha against Man United, maybe not the end of the world. I've then got Cash against City. Let's say, just worst case scenario, the Laporte is out. If Laporte is injured, and again, it is worst case scenario, and he might be absolutely fine, this is probably the way the team looks. It's just not ideal. So whilst I want to attack 37, I feel like getting Vardy in, it's just a slightly nice move for me because it's still attacking 37, but it allows me to put out a decent option then again in 38. The final option that I've got, if we just go back here and reset the game week, is if I just bring the players back in that I have in the starting 11 like that, and then like that, right? So this is the way the team looks. The other option then is a really straightforward, just Havertz to Zaha. And I look at the team, I think that's probably the sensible thing to do with this team. I could then even at this stage, I've got 2.1 million. I could even take out Saka for another player if I really desperately wanted to get a little bit aggressive with it. For example, I could bring in Coutinho into that spot if I fancy him to play both in the double. So that's another option. Is just straight away Havertz to Zaha, simple free transfer. The final option that I've got is if I just put Sonny in here, is I just go for Son. I say, you know, he's battered my rank for long enough. Burnley and Norwich, these are two fixtures I'm going to want Son in for. If I do that, I've got to find £2 million. So I've got basically two options here. I can drop Laporte all the way down to a £3.9 million defender. Again, I think I want to keep Laporte just because I'm thinking ahead to game week 38 if he is fit. But that's an option if I don't think he's going to start. And then the other option I've got is that I drop Saka, of course, to, again, someone like a Ramsey or a Douglas Luiz or someone like that. Again, if just as an example, let's say it is Douglas Luiz, it would probably then end up being that I bring Alonso into the starting 11. So those are the possible transfers. And then if I just switch to 38, of course, the reason this is nice is that now without having to make any transfers, I've already got Sonny in my team as my captain. I've got Laporte to bring in for cash. So this would be the way the team looks. Now at this stage, I would still have to probably take a -4. Maybe I could just do one transfer. It would basically be Watkins out for Tony probably at this stage, and then I just have to decide about Gordon, Richarlison, Douglas Luiz, Pookie, etc., and what I want to do with them. So either way, if you look at my team, it's probably not particularly well set up for game week 38, but there are certain moves in 37 which really stitch me up, and I think going for Ings and Zaha stitches me up a little bit more than I want. And I know Zaha against Man United, people are saying it's a fantastic fixture. I'm not sure it's a fantastic fixture. Again, it's not the end of the world, but if I can bring in someone more like a Son or a Vardy that has decent fixture in 37 and 38, I think that's probably slightly more sensible. Let me know down below in the comments what you currently think about my plan. Like I said, because we've still got all of Saturday, we've got the FA Cup final still to come, and the deadline's on Sunday. I haven't fully finalised my transfer plans, but I'm always eager to hear your thoughts down below. As always, stay up to date with all of the latest information over on Twitter. If you follow me over on Twitter at FPL__Raptor, I'll retweet any useful information. And at about 10 p.m. UK time, we get embargoed quotes, which is some of the quotes that were held back. We might get some extra information this evening. So try and hold off on your transfers. Have a little think about what you want to do with your team, and let me know down below what you think you would do with my team if you were in my position. So guys, there you have it. That is the Game Week 37 team selection video. I do hope you've been enjoying the content here on this channel, and I do hope that you tune in to Sunday's live stream. We'll be going live at about 10 a.m. UK time, so I hope you'll be able to tune into that, the penultimate live stream of the season. Hopefully you have a really enjoyable final 2 game weeks, and if you are someone that's been fixating on rank and maybe not enjoying FPL as much recently, take a step back, take a deep breath, and try and think about how you can still make some optimal decisions, but also find a way to enjoy the game for the final 2 game weeks as well, because over the summer, I guarantee we will miss it before doing an entire season of FPL once again. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.